Reacher.
Reacher.
I'm
Oh,
enjoying the
mama.
weekly episodes. Just one a week.
We will convert him. We will convert him. We will convert him. It's better. It's better.
I
It's better.
like the multiple episode drop into weekly episodes. It is nice.
I think I can concede a 2-episode premiere might be peak, just because it means you
It
can get
tucks you in
deeper into
better.
the story
Yeah.
and like know that you want to invest more time in it a little bit quicker. I do agree with that slightly, but after that, weekly releases should be law and make seasons a little bit longer.
But yeah, another good episode from Reacher.
Yes,
a bit of a
found
flashback episode.
Yeah, we found out the history, and very quickly, me and Jenna kind of pieced together. I mean, it wasn't like a massive secret. We all kind of knew where it would end up going, but it was still the journey. But I was like, oh, this girl is very likable, Dominique. She's very likable. She's very Reacher. Reacher knows she can be phenomenal. She wasn't in any of the flashbacks last season. She's not his friend still. Well, we know he wanted to kill someone for whatever happened.
The big thing is, like, I straight away like clicked because it was like he's just on his own in an office. There's no mention of the 1/10th, and then he's like, his superior was just like, oh, maybe you should we should actually get you a full-on team at some point, have your own little like squad of. I'm like, oh, this is pre 1/10th. This was someone that we didn't know about. We also know something went wrong from how he's been talking.
And we know he thought he killed this dude.
Yeah. So like we knew where the end was going to be, but yeah, the story along the way, it's such a shame because it was such a interesting insight into some more of this character and like how he is as a person. We enjoyed the 1/10 flashbacks last season, like getting to learn more about Reacher. So like seeing this again with like his first sort of protege was really cool to see. But yeah, unfortunately, a sad end to the flashback.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for me for that flashback was by seeing how much he invested in her and how much he believed in her, and that essentially got her killed. I think that is what kind of soured him a little bit. And kind of, he already was a little bit distant from people. Then he let her in, she died. That reinforces that wherever I go, trouble follows, people get hurt. Nope, not going to do it. Don't want anyone involved.
Yeah, I think that caused a shift because we saw with the 1/10th, he was a bit disconnected from them. He made sure to keep himself as like, no, I'm the leader. Like, I don't want to be too close to you lot. Like, yes, we had, but I keep myself distant. We know that from like the present day where he just doesn't talk to any of them and hasn't kept in contact. I think you're right. Like that's come after this because he did make a connection with like his first ever team member, and then it's like it ended up with her dying, and he's gonna feel some guilt for that, even though everything he did was so much the right way of handling it. Like
he believed in her. He knew she could handle it.
He knew the system of how people are going to look at this, so he was doing everything in his power to make sure she got all the credit for this, and was like really looking out for her in that sense.
It was when she was like, do you want to go get a beer and we'll finish this up? And he's like, you are a young black woman in the army. That is not the kind of imaginary cloud you need hanging over you. And it comes across quite harsh. You're like, you can go for a beer. So he's like, so we'll have a beer here and do it instead because I like you. I would go for a beer with you. But I'm not going to risk fucking up your career because you could be such a good asset. Let's do this the right, nice, easy way so there's no problems.
Yeah, he understands the system of the army and what people will do to try and get their own gain by like pushing people down. And he knows how good he is, and this is the first person he's had under him, people are going to try and find ways to pull that apart.
Yeah. And just like you said, he made such an effort of like, you go alone because I'm what the army wants to be their poster boy. I am the big, tall, all-American muscle man. If they can find any way to give me this victory, they will.
Mm.
Don't let them take the victory from you. And then we got the fucking the foreshadowing when earlier in the episode your man tried to help her and almost got himself hurt for it.
Yeah.
And then he was like, don't ever, no matter how much you care for her, turn your back to try and help her, because that'll get you both killed.
Mm.
And it did.
Yeah, unfortunately. That little foreshadowing was such, when you see him later and like Reach is like, you turned your back. Like that's when it's like, oh, okay. We should have known this was coming. Like I feel like we fully understand now why Reacher fucking hates Quinn.
Yeah. The interesting thing I picked up on something earlier on in the episode. I can't remember what now because I watched it when it came out. Where I was like, oh, I wonder if she's like in on it. So
Yeah.
then later on in the episode, when Quinn tries to like go, she was in on it, she was part of it. I was like, and then Reacher pulls something that I wouldn't even think of, which is why I love the writing so much. Because I can't remember how, but they planted the seed that she might be in on it, in my brain anyway.
Yeah.
And then they tried to pay it off later, and I'm like, I thought that maybe she's in on it. Maybe that's why he's even more pissed off, because he didn't see it. And then he just goes, what was her first name? You don't make a deal with someone whose name you don't know, which is completely valid.
Yeah. It was, I wonder if the thing that like put you on that was the whole when they were scouting out the drop and they missed it under their noses. It's like that was like the only time she made a mistake in, like, not intentionally.
No, I think it was during the interview something she said. I can't remember what.
But yeah, that whole
there was a moment I was like,
him trying to twist it, and I'm like, I was sat there like, nah, she
surely not.
And surely Reacher doesn't believe this. And then when he pulled out that question of like, what's her name then? And Quinn couldn't answer it, it was like, you fucked yourself there, mate. Yeah, you've really you dug yourself in a deeper hole by trying to trying to lie his way out of that situation, and Reacher being smart enough to be like, I'm gonna make that in my head, I'm gonna double check that that isn't the case and I know how to. And he catches him in the lie straight away. It's like, oh, now you've just cemented. Part of me, I'm like, how did he shoot him? I'm like, because they're in the barn, and I'm like, at what point does he? Because I'm thinking he's just going to shoot him there and then. I'm like, surely he'd know if he does it here. Like, how does he end up in a river and he doesn't know that he's dead, or like doesn't? And it's like, but then when he walks him all the way to the cliff edge, I'm like, oh, now I see how this went down.
Other like police shows never deal with, but Reacher does very well. Reacher is aware that this man, he has him under arrest essentially. He has no weapon. He's in control of the situation. If he just shoots him, that's an execution. He's committed murder.
Yep.
And he's going to kill this guy. He's decided that's what he's doing.
Well, even his superior knows that's what's about to happen.
Yeah. So he's like, so I can't leave it in a situation where everyone's going to do the forensic analysis and go, this guy didn't have a weapon. This guy didn't try and fire a shot.
He's good enough.
This guy just got fucking executed. So he's like, I'm going to make sure there's no body, because if there's no body, there's no crime. The guy got away. I don't know where he is. And to be fair, that was true. He didn't know where he was. He went in the water. But what this episode showed a lot more of, which I've picked up on before, but I've never really thought too much about. Reacher gets portrayed as very unsociable, in the sense of like he doesn't understand what's happening. He's like very just like almost robotic. But it's kind of the other way. He's not good in social interactions, but he understands them perfectly. Down to the like, no, we can't go for a drink together. That would look weird. You like her, which is fine. Don't be an idiot and get yourself killed because you like her, though. And the understanding that by killing What's-His-Face's second and making himself the hero, he can become What's-His-Face's second and stuff like that. He doesn't enjoy the social interactions, but he knows how to read them, understand them, and manipulate them to benefit him.
This comes back to him being like his intelligence that we constantly get shown in different ways. Like he has is very intelligent on social, like social engineering and how it
Yes.
like and the how they things will happen and interact, and that's just all part of him being. And he knows that well enough when he's working out cases that he just also understands it in general. He just partly, I think, also with this story of his history of like now he just cuts himself off from that stuff. And also he's always like said danger always follows me, so that's probably also part of it of like I don't let anyone get close to me because danger is probably going to find me and I don't want it to overflow into their place or whatever.
Absolutely.
I
The other bit I oh, go on.
I was going to say I was right about the FBI woman being guilty or feeling guilty.
Yeah.
Like that whole reveal of her then saying, actually, I kind of forced her into this. I lied to her and said that it would help her sentence or whatever. And like, I was like, this explains exactly what I was saying the other week, where I was like, I think she's just feeling guilty for getting this girl involved, which is why she's overlooking everything. And now that it's a case of like, this girl really didn't need to be here, and she played it off to her that it'll help. Like, she kind of forced her into this situation.
Well, she lied to her. She told her if you don't do this, you're going to go to prison. When actually that wasn't the case.
It's like, oh, no wonder you're feeling so guilty about the situation she's now in, and you're just like happy to just be overlooking everything.
It was a proper reminder. No matter how much I kind of like the character, all cops are bastards.
Although she was not happy about the whole safe house, and I loved that Reacher was just like, yeah, it's not my problem. You're in charge there. I'm sure you'll be able to sort it out.
just get it sorted. You know, who cares? I really enjoyed the boxing lesson with the son.
Oh yes, I get
the talking down to him, but in such a not rude way almost. Like it was very jovial. Like I'm talking shit to you, but it's because I like you and respect you enough to be honest with you.
I took it as like Reacher's actually treating him like an adult.
Yeah.
And like, I'm gonna banter with you like I would any adult that was in my squad on the army sort of attitude of like, I know you're a good kid and you do need some toughening up a bit for this situation that your life is. But I'm gonna banter you and take the piss out of you a little bit to get you there. It also leans into I at the end of this with the whole blowout of what we imagine will be, let's be real, Quinn's probably gonna die again.
He'd fucking better after what he did to Dominique. I want him to die, and I want it to be more painful this time.
There's obviously all of that situation's going to get blown up essentially, and there's going to be the fallout of, I reckon, Reacher make sure that the staff ladies are kind of excused from the situation, and I think he's going to make sure the son kind of gets off excused. I think he's going to look out for those that clearly are just stuck in this situation, not that they necessarily wanted to be in this situation, because like we've said, he has got that, he just care about some people and will make an effort.
He cares about innocent people being okay. He's got a very strict moral compass on that regard. I did enjoy the if you're gonna be in a fight, you know you can't avoid it, make sure you throw the first punch. And he's like, isn't that kind of like dishonest? And he's like, I think we can let you off. Just like looking like that. He's like, you are never going to be the bigger guy in the fight, so you do not have to fight fair.
Yeah, it's like, well, what if I am the bigger guy? And he's like, you won't be. Like, I've been in enough fights. Like, I know. Also, in my head, I'm like, why are you bothered about it being dishonest, mate, if you're getting jumped by 3 guys? Like, the honesty's out the window.
I think that's like showing off like the character of the person, though, isn't it? It's like this kid just doesn't want to get bullied, but he's not like a bad kid who wants to hurt people, which I think is why Reach is willing to teach him. Because he's like, I could teach you to murder a man, and you're not going to do it unless you're in absolute danger, so I don't mind teaching you. Whereas if the kid was like, spotted this big guy and was like, hey, I need you to teach me to fight, Reach would have been like, why do you want to learn?
Yeah. I'm interested to see how this goes though now, because he's number 2. Obviously, one, Paulie doesn't like him. How's that little interaction going to go between them of like Paulie finding out that Reach is now in number 2? I don't think he's going to trust him. Whether that's just by his own kind of dumbness of ego, doesn't like Reacher, so he's going to challenge him, or if he doesn't really put two and two together and it only at the like later on. Because here's the thing: as soon as Quinn and Reacher see each other, everything
Game over.
Yeah, it's it all goes up, like blows up, because unless they play it off as Quinn has no memory because he got shot in the head or something, but we already know from the police report that like the psychiatrist felt like he was hiding what he remembered. So as soon as he sees him, it's like either they both recognize each other but don't really say anything, or it all just goes south very quickly.
Do you know what I did like about this episode for that reason, though?
Go on.
It established why his cover hadn't already been blown. Because we know that Quinn now has Reacher's name, in the sense of we know that Quinn's been told, oh, this is our new guy, Reacher, he's going to be my new number 2. Naturally, the question to that might be, well, how comes Quinn didn't remember the name? But in the flashback in this episode, Reacher goes, he's torturing her to get the name of her supervisor so that he knows who else he needs to kill. She'll never give me up. He doesn't know that the supervisor of the military police was Jack Reacher.
My only counter to that is when he turned up to the bar and he was obviously in his military and it'd have his name on it, whether he read it in that moment.
We're not explicitly told he did or didn't, so there's enough there to go. He doesn't know his name.
There is, and then also if he does remember it, you could be like, well, he saw his name in that moment and it comes back to him. It could also be one of those things where, like, in that moment, it didn't lodge itself in his memory well enough that the name hasn't jogged the memory, but if he sees the face and then obviously has the name, then it's like, oh, wait, and it all just comes back, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. I am looking forward to the moment they come face to face, and there's that moment of, because you're right, they might play it up to he doesn't remember him, so they might be like, we might get like a 10-minute sequence of Reacher trying to avoid him at like the birthday party, so that he doesn't expose himself, and then he bumps into him and he's like, oh, you must be the new guy, and walks past him and he's like, holy shit, he doesn't remember me, let's go.
It's going to be that, or like you say, it's going to be avoiding the party, and like Paulie's going to be like, why the fuck are you hiding? Like, why are you seeming so on edge and hiding, and like call him out that way? Also, I've had a thought. We know that it's Reacher. There's going to be a massive gunfight at some point. We were shown that LMG for a reason in the guardhouse.
Oh, absolutely. That is traditional foreshadowing.
I also don't think Paulie is the one that gets to shoot it. I think
probably
something happens in the guardhouse, or Reacher ends up in the guardhouse. He sees it and goes, huh, that's going to be useful. I'm going to take that. And then at some point, Reacher's going to be walking with an LMG shooting it.
Yeah. We're going to get our Rambo kind of moment for sure.
Something I do think might also cause an issue. I think the young FBI lad's going to fuck up with the person who've got detained.
Absolutely.
The detainee guy is clearly trying to make some he's wearing him down. And then
he's going for a reverse Stockholm.
Yeah, and again the kid came out and said, what's the deal with cigarettes? So there's gonna come a point where the kid's on his own for like the 5th time and this guy's pestering him for cigarettes that he just gives in. And something's gonna go wrong then. Not to mention the episode ended with them tracking the laptop it ended with the 3 hired mercenaries going into and potentially going to catch the FBI's.
I'm very curious to see how that goes, because there's only so many times Reach can go into a building with a bunch of guys, be the only survivor, before someone goes, how the fuck are you always the only survivor?
Yes, this is also the other thing. It's like, does he end up being the only survivor, and that's what causes Quinn to be like, all right, I want to meet this number 2.
I want to meet this unkillable dude.
Yeah, who is this guy that has rocked up and in the last week has survived like 3 altercations as the only survivor? Like, yeah, it's going to start raising questions. It's going to be
absolutely. But so far, phenomenal season. I'm excited to see where it's going. I'm enjoying, for the most part, the show being a little bit more enclosed in the house. I know,
Yeah,
like
I know what
every
you mean.
episode he does go on like an excursion, but it feels like there's risk to an excursion. He's not just
I know
going
what
to
you
get
mean.
information. It's like the balancing of, oh my god, how long am I going to be? How long do I have? And it adds attention to everything he's doing, which I think really adds a lot to this season. I'm really enjoying it for that reason.
Yeah, it is. Like the last one was cool where they were going all over the place, but yeah, having it be more locked down to this local town again is been a lot of fun.
Hmm